Well, Adam, we've officially gotten the first of the three specials now on Disney Plus.
It's wild to turn on my TV, turn on Disney Plus, and there's David Tennant front and center, the hero banner on Disney Plus. It blew me away. Honestly, when I first saw it, I was floored. I was not expecting to see that when I turned on Disney Plus.
It is weird because we're so used to, BBC America. I know you would wouldn't you? I forget how you were watching it. Were you like recording it the night before and then watching it, or were you trying
I
to?
have I have purchased so many episodes of Doctor Who through the iTunes
Uh,
cloud subscriptions. Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
own so many episodes because that was the only way I could.
because you didn't have BBC America, right?
No,
Yeah,
nope.
yeah. So I was watching them on BBC America when they'd come out. Usually I'd record it. They were on demand on HBO Max. Now
Oh,
it's like now we're on Disney Plus, but it's weird because I will say I like it on Disney Plus. It's easy to navigate to. I can use subtitles now without, because usually when you record something off TV, the subtitles are kind
yeah.
of wonky. They're not timed
Yep.
very good. But when you watch something streaming, it's like perfect. So I can do the subtitles. Everything's nice, easy to navigate to. It was kind of cool. It was a cool feeling. And they dropped it and I could just kind of watch it whenever I got around to it. I didn't feel like, oh, I had to try to watch it like right
Yeah.
away or anything, because not the whole world's watching it at the same time. It's like kind of everybody's watching it as they get to it. So it's a different feel, but I kind of liked the new way of watching Doctor Who.
Yeah. And so the timing of it, that did throw me off because I had Friday off, the 25th. Doctor Who's dropping. I'm gonna watch it first thing that I can watch. I'm gonna make sure Saturday morning, right? It wasn't Friday, it was Saturday, the
Saturday,
25th.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna watch this thing before anybody else up in the house. I went to the gym, got home, was gonna watch it. It wasn't available yet. I couldn't watch it first thing in the morning. It wasn't until that evening that I could watch it. That threw me off
Oh,
because the
interesting.
hero banner was there. I could click on it, and all it was the trailer.
Uh,
So they did have some aspect of it where it's like there was a
you
certain
still have to
time.
wait.
It wasn't
Yeah.
at midnight. There was a certain time that it was available. But there is something to be said. I never I never felt that feeling of like Doctor Who wasn't mainstream. I knew that it had its own smaller following, right? Like it's a British show, it's made its way over. It was on Netflix. There's a lot of shows on Netflix though, let's be honest. And then it's kind of jumped around to these streaming service. There's something about seeing it show up on Disney Plus where it's like we've hit the big time.
It
Like
gives
we're
it a little bit of
mainstream.
like legitimacy, you think?
Yeah. I mean, it always was. There's always, I mean, it's a old show. It's been around for years, and yet there's something about seeing it show up on something so mainstream, something so front and center that it's like, wow, this is this is cool.
Whole new audience, but did we put our best foot forward? That we
That's
will
what we're talking
discuss.
about.
We will discuss. Um, but before we get into, because what I want to do is review the episode, obviously. Like
Yeah,
what I didn't realize, and this makes me a bad Doctor Who fan. Sometimes when Doctor Who's not on for a long time, I kind of move on to other things, you know, get into some other novel series or TV series or
yep,
whatever, and I don't think about Doctor Who until it kind of gets closer to coming back. So I wasn't really keeping up to date with maybe a lot of the information or news that was coming out about it. And I didn't even realize that it's literally like we had that episode. I thought there was going to be a special and then there was going to be like a couple weeks and another
yeah,
special. But no, it's like it's 3 weekends in a row. And so we don't have a
yeah.
ton of time between. So I was like, oh, we better get our review recorded so we can get prepared for the next episode, because otherwise they're going to start stacking up on us. So
It is.
definitely,
It is.
definitely want to review the first part of the. I guess is it the first part? I don't know. Are they just three separate things, or are we calling it like part one, part two, part three?
I think if we were to try to go to the part one, part two, part three, I think this might be the most standalone
Hmm.
of the three episodes that we have. I feel like the way that they've set it up is this is kind of its own compartmentalized episode. I feel like the next two, though, probably are going to be pretty tied together. But there were some things said in this one That's like, okay, that is why this one flows into the other two. But I do feel like this is more of a standalone episode capsule. That's the word I'm looking for. Capsule episode.
The Star Beast, right?
The Star Beast,
Okay.
yes.
So we will be reviewing the Star Beast in detail, but there were a couple things I just wanted to like discuss or mention, I guess, before we jump into that. So there was a Children in Need short that came out. Um, that I know a lot of people probably don't even, if you're an American Doctor Who fan, and you don't really know kind of that whole thing, you might miss those specials. Some of them are really cool, and it's like almost like,
Yeah.
oh man, I'm really glad that I found that. But I don't feel like it was highly promoted. I saw them talking about it. I was like, oh, I should probably watch that. So I searched it up on YouTube and found it. But it was the first appearance of the 14th Doctor, technically. And I'm assuming those are considered canon. I don't know if they're maybe quasi canon or whatever, but it was kind of a fun little introduction, I guess, of the 14th Doctor and David Tennant coming back and him having the whole thing with the Daleks and kind of the evolution of the
Yeah.
Daleks. It was a fun little short that I'm glad that I found, and in some ways maybe was a little more entertaining than the special. I don't know.
I mean, I'm glad you found it because I hadn't watched it yet. So I had watched the special and then I watched the Children in Need short. And I I kind of feel like I should have watched the Children in Need short first because there were aspects even when we get into the special where it's like Tennant's doctor just shows up and it's almost like you miss some of those discovery pieces. He's just off running. And yet this Children in Short really does kind of lean into that where he's like, why do I have this face? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? My new friend. And like it gives you more of that standalone doctor introduction before you get into the special of like, oh, he knows he's back. He's kind of expecting people to know he's back. Like, I don't know. It seems like this
Yeah,
Children in Short was almost needed before the special because you get more of that self-exploratory nature of the Doctor's first appearance.
yeah. It was fun. It was kind of silly, but
Yeah.
the idea of him, oh whoops, I broke the actual intimidating arm that would have been like, oh, that
Yes.
that would have been way cooler if the Daleks had something like that, but no, he replaced it with a plunger, and
I
then
mean, the
at the
original arm
end,
straight up penetrated the TARDIS. Like
the thing
it
was
was stuck
intimidating.
into the side of
Yeah,
it. Yes. Yeah.
yeah. Now what they need to do is bring that back for like a future version of the Daleks, that they bring and they're like, oh,
That's
we now are using this arm because it was discovered. I don't know,
the
whatever.
original design.
Yeah. So
I mean, I
uh,
wouldn't put it past Davies to like pull in pretty much I feel like anything at this point is open game. Like anything that you see, I feel like could make another appearance. It doesn't matter how small or large it is. I feel like it could be coming back at some point.
side note, are we pronouncing Davies correctly? Because I was watching a YouTuber from England and she corrected herself for saying Davies and was like, oh, I said Davies, I meant Davis. And I was like, wait, are we as Americans saying Davies just because we're sounding it out the way we would say it, or is there like the correct pronunciation is Davis and we're just like getting laughed at? I don't know. Like it just came up today. Maybe she is just wrong, but I saw this YouTuber kind of mention that it's actually pronounced Davis.
I'm gonna plead my American English and ask for forgiveness for the mispronunciation. If that is the case, I
Happy
think
to
we can
hear.
plead ignorance.
We have a couple listeners that love to correct us anyway. So uh, if you're one of those listeners, feel free
Yes.
to jump into our Facebook page and let us know that we've been pronouncing it wrong the whole time. I don't know if we have, but when I heard her say that, I was like, oh crap, have I been saying it wrong for this many years?
No one's corrected us yet. No one has
You
corrected
would
us
think
yet.
somebody would have by now.
By now. I mean, the last episode we recorded was January of this year, so it's not like we have spent a lot of time saying his name in the past year. So we
True,
shall
true.
see.
They did do like kind of I thought it was interesting because they did a lot of videos on YouTube, kind of like behind the scenes interviews with the different actors. They also did like this primer video where it was like if you're new to
Yeah.
Doctor Who. So they're really promoting Doctor Who now, I think, because they know they're getting a new audience. And so it's almost like their opportunity to introduce Doctor Who to, a lot of new people. And the video that they did that was kind of like a new to Who primer was pretty, like, it was pretty detailed, pretty long. I think it was something like 9 minutes. Um,
Yeah.
so I watched that. I found it interesting kind of what they included and what they left out. They definitely give you the whole history and kind of say what the Doctor is. He's an alien. He's from Gallifrey, blah, 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 and kind of talk about the regenerations and some of the history of the character. They do not mention the Timeless Child, which I thought was kind of interesting just because that seemed to be such a big twist, but also kind of a foundational aspect of the Doctor now that the Doctor is not actually from Gallifrey.
Yeah.
They could have literally just had a line in the intro where it's like, originally thought, believed from Gallifrey, later he found out he's actually from an unknown place that he's still searching, blah, 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 whatever. They could have quickly fit that in. So I didn't know how strategic it was for them to kind of at this point not introduce that to viewers yet, either because maybe they just don't want to confuse them, or maybe because they just don't want it to be a big focus point.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What did you have
I
thoughts
mean,
on that?
to your point, it is interesting that they didn't mention that. And along the same lines, they did mention he saved Gallifrey, and then he didn't. Like they make that differentiation of like, oh, he saved it, and Gallifrey is actually still destroyed at this point. So they could have done something similar with like, oh, they thought he was a, but he's actually, or thought she was, but she's actually a.
Mm-hmm.
So they could have. I don't know. I could see it's probably one of those things that would be really confusing because as they're introducing main aspects of the Doctor, it is those things that we have believed to be the truth for the longest time. And so to all of a sudden subvert some of these like deeply held understandings of who the Doctor is with this new information that is a year, 2 years old, a year old, and we haven't necessarily fleshed it out to any great extent right now. I could see them being like, yeah, let's leave that to fully flesh out in the coming year or what
Yeah.
have you.
But
But
wouldn't that be the best time to introduce it to a new audience because they're new? So that you're literally telling them, you're creating the canon for them. You're saying, hey, this is
yeah,
the set the stage. So if you did want to put that as part of the narrative, why not introduce it right away?
I feel it might be an olive branch, right? Like they're trying
Yeah.
to strategically bridge the gap between old and new, like old fans and new fans. And they're giving us this common ground of like, okay, and now from this point, we're going to venture on into the unknown together. And
I
the
mean, I'm
Timeless Child
fine.
still feels like an unknown.
Yeah, it does. And it feels like there's a lot more. It feels like if Chibnall had stuck around, maybe that would have become the next season, kind of trying to
Yeah.
solve that mystery. He didn't. He moved on, and maybe it's not as important to Davies, where he's kind of like, all right, I'm not gonna, because he's already said he's not gonna necessarily change that canon. He's not gonna override what Chibnall did, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's either going to embrace it either. He could just kind of say, all right, I'm going to kind of go with things as they were. We're not going to
Yeah.
say that they're not the Timeless Child, but we're also not going to really mention it either.
There's still those memories buried deep in the TARDIS. What was it? The watch that they dropped
Yeah,
down
that they
there? I
dropped
mean,
down in
that
there.
has to come back at some point.
No,
That has to come
it just
back.
got torched by Donna's coffee, so that's gone now. Uh,
Oh, that's going to be a fun thing to
that'll be
address.
the explanation.
Um,
Yeah, that
yeah.
we'll never find out because Donna spilled her coffee.
I mean,
Uh,
to your original point in regards to like them, Doctor Who, BBC, Disney, whoever might be behind it, the videos that they're starting to put out are really well done. Like the
yeah,
quality of like these introductory videos, some of the behind the scenes stuff that they're doing, it's engaging content. Um, oh, I wish I could tell you his name because the narrator of these videos, he does a solid job of introducing you to who these characters are.
oh,
Um,
Tyrell Charles.
okay, props to Tyrell
I just
Charles
happened
for
to have
like
it up, so I didn't know that, but yeah, Tyrell Charles, which I don't know if he's known, like if he's kind of a known actor or musician or something. It seems like maybe he probably is, but I don't know him.
Yeah,
But so
he definitely comes
apologies
across
to
as
Tyrell Charles fans, but I don't know who the guy is. But he was good at doing the videos.
oh yeah, absolutely. He comes across as one of us. And there's something, so just going back to the new to Who video, there's something super, super nostalgic. Like it's one of those things that as you watch and you have these different scenes showing up on the screen, it's like they hit every sweet spot that like they know how to conjure up those warm feelings that you have about Doctor Who. Like
Oh yeah,
the from Capaldi to Eccleston to Tennant to Smith, it's like they have these key moments that it's just like it gives you shivers and chills. It's like I remember the first time I watched that episode. I remember the wonder and the awe, and they did an awesome job of capturing that.
yeah, I agree. So hopefully hopefully it's capturing the attention of new viewers. They maybe get
Yeah,
excited they see these videos and hopefully jump into the series. There were a couple other things that we can kind of jump through real quick here. Jonathan Groff was announced. He's going to be a guest star. This was announced way back in May, so we're just now getting to it because we haven't been recording. But I know there's been a few different actors that have been announced, but he's one that stands out to me just because from an American viewership, we know
yeah,
him.
yep,
We know him from Hamilton. We know him from Frozen. So it was kind of cool to see him pop up. And did you see like the image that they showed of
yeah,
him
yep.
with the doctor and oh, I'm blanking on her name, Ruby,
Ruby.
right? So yeah, him and the doctor and Ruby in their kind of time, period pieces, kind of costume. So uh, that was a really cool image and cool to see him because he's a not that he's like some huge A-list actor in the United States by any means, but he's a notable name, and because of things that I'm interested in, I know who he is. So
Yeah,
it's kind of
yep.
cool to see him pop up on the list.
Yeah, that's my I'm hoping to kind of capture that episode because my daughter has become very obsessed with Hamilton right now.
Ah,
And so to be able to be like, "Hey, you like Hamilton? Well, here you go. Like watch Doctor Who with me. This will be great."
I
It's
think
exciting to see him show up.
everybody goes through that phase, right? We all have the Hamilton phase. Uh,
That's it's wild that it's
it's the
gotten to the
discovery of it,
phase
right?
stage.
Because I
Right.
was
Yep.
late to it too. She's really late to it,
Yeah,
but
very late.
she can blame it on youth. But I was late to the game with Hamilton. But once I discovered it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the coolest thing ever. And then I was like obsessed with it for a few years straight, and
Yep.
down to like reading the biography of Hamilton, which led to me reading the biography of a bunch of other people from that time period. So yeah, it
Yeah.
became a bit of an obsession. Now I'm kind of finally past it, although I still enjoy Hamilton. It's definitely not as crazy, but yeah, that's kind of cool that she's getting into it.
That it's not your on your Spotify Wrapped or your Apple end of year review for the most listened to album this year.
No, I think
You're past that.
no, I don't listen to enough music for those stats to mean anything to me. I'm like all audiobooks and podcasts. So that's what I need. I need a stat on like subject matter of like how many books I read,
Yeah,
listen to on audio or I don't know. But yeah, the music stuff, I don't really listen to a ton of music, sadly.
gotcha, gotcha.
I just
Mine.
sound old now. Uh,
Well, Hamilton, he's made at least what is it, King George? King George? Is that who it was? He played King
yeah,
George. Yeah, he'll be
yeah,
back, or he is back.
yeah.
Um,
You'll be back. They'll be
you'll
back.
be back. He'll be back.
No, it's a great thing, and I got to watch it. I didn't see it on Broadway, but I saw it when Broadway was traveling, and they did in Philly, so I watched it. So yeah, we're getting on a
That's
Hamilton
awesome.
thing. There was definitely a time
That's
I probably could have been like, let's do a Hamilton podcast because I'm that into it. That's how much I
Oh,
was into Hamilton.
we
So
missed it. We missed it.
yeah,
That would have been
we missed
awesome.
we missed the Hamilton phase, but yeah, so I'm excited about him being in it. It sounds like it's going to just be kind of like a guest star type thing on one episode, so it's not like he's going to be, a recurring character, but pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then, are you
I
excited
am
about
curious.
the? Oh, go ahead. One more.
No, I'm just curious how much of the Disney Plus connection comes into play when it comes to him in particular, because he is very much tied to Disney through Frozen.
Yeah.
And then even Hamilton has very strong ties to Disney Plus.
True.
Surprisingly enough, that's
It's a good point. I do wonder that with the connection to Disney now, if that'll kind of open up the door for them to access more notable American actors. Maybe not
right.
just American actors, but just more notable actors in general. Doctor Who does do a pretty good job of, getting those kind of notable actors here and there, but they're never, I don't know, how do you say this without offending the British, but like a lot of times it's big people in England, or in
Right.
UK. It's big names for them, but not necessarily for us. So when
Right.
we see some of these more notable American names or people that are known in America, then it's like, oh, cool. Like that's actually a little more exciting. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Typically, we find actors or actresses who have a connection to the show through growing up watching it. Like, I would be
Mm.
very curious to know if Jonathan Groff has any prior or previous connection to Doctor Who, or if it's just, hey, this opportunity came up, connected to Disney through the Disney grapevine. I jumped on it. Like, most of those other actors and actresses that we've seen in the past, they are excited because they grew up watching it. They grew up in their
Yeah.
living rooms thinking about Doctor Who. So I am curious to see what happens moving forward.
When we see Chris Evans or Robert Downey Jr. do a cameo in Doctor Who, then we'll know, okay, they've
Oh,
finally arrived.
right, exactly. As all
Robert
these
Downey
Marvel
Jr. is the new
characters.
master.
Yes.
That would
Oh
blow
my
people's
goodness.
mind. Talk about getting ratings, man. Uh, so,
Yes.
are you excited about the Hooniverse?
It is.
That's,
It is. I'm curious to see what happens with this. I mean, we've seen so many spin-off shows just in through its past iterations. Um, is there something to be said for now is the time? I think a lot of the stuff that they're doing with the classic doctors really cool. It is one of those things we talk about how mainstream Disney Plus feels. These seem like they're kind of sequestered in the back of the closet, and not everybody is going to be able to access it.
mhm.
But it's an interesting concept. I think if they do it well, it could be really intriguing moving forward.
It seems like they're getting the brand ready just in case it takes off,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it still feels like they're just kind of barely dipping their toes, which I'm okay with. I don't want them to go crazy and suddenly announce all these shows and we're doing this show and the Daleks animated series is coming back, or like Class season 2. I mean, like let's
Ooh.
slow down. Let's make sure that there is a demand, because the last thing we need is like suddenly them just to announce like 5 or 6 different Doctor Who spinoff shows, only to have them all flop, and then
Right.
have Doctor Who kind of be dragged through the mud by all the critics and be like, oh, look how bad Doctor Who is. So it's like, let's make sure, let's test the waters with Doctor Who on Disney Plus, see if we can get a new audience, get people excited. Then we'll dive into the universe. Right now, it's just basically, there's not really much to it. They've kind
Right.
of announced they're going to do some of these little shorts with old doctors and companions. It almost sounds like they're just going to kind of get together in this like fake TARDIS,
And talk.
that's specific for this show. And there's, obviously they're older now, so they have to have some kind of explanation as to why they're older. But then they're going to kind of talk through some classic episodes. So I mean, for like the nostalgia, like big time Doctor Who fans from like the classic series, I can see
Yeah.
them getting really excited for this. But even as like a Star Wars fan, if you came to me and said, "Oh, we're going to do this new series and it's going to be like Mark Hamill is going to like dress up as if he's Luke Skywalker and he's going to be talking to a Padawan and explaining the old movies," I'd be like, that sounds kind of dumb. Like
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd be that excited. That's how this sounds to me. No offense to people that are excited for this. I'm glad you are. But for me, it not growing up with Doctor Who and not really watching a lot of the classic stuff, this is really has very little interest for me.
Yeah. I mean, no, I hear you. I get you. And like some of those things, like, yeah, a Force Ghost Luke, like explaining stuff. And that said, you have a lot of content that you've been able to dig into over the years when it comes to Star Wars.
True, true,
That
true.
aside, I do, I think there's, right, we see these old doctors show up here, there, and everywhere in specials, right? Like and people flock to these things. These are beloved characters that anytime they're on the screen, right, they draw an audience. Um, could it just be opportunistic? Like, hey, we are trying to get, again, we're trying to bridge that gap. We're trying to get all the older fans to plug back into Doctor Who, and we're trying to capture this brand new audience, and we're trying to connect them and bring them together. This might be their grasp in that direction of like, hey, Doctor Who is Doctor Who still exists. The Doctor is live and well. Bring back all these warm, fuzzy feelings that you have sitting in the living room, watching this character with your granddad, watching this character with your mom on whatever night of the week that you watched it. Like, bring up those feelings, similar to what that new to Who YouTube video did for me, right? Like, I watched it and I was jazzed. I was like, yeah, give me as much Doctor Who as I can get right now. Maybe that's what this is just trying to prime the pump to get things flowing again.
Yeah.
But I mean, to your point, quality over quantity, right? That's Disney's new motto across the board: quality over quantity. So take it slow. Make sure that we nail these things before we move forward.
And don't get me wrong, I like it when the classic doctors come back and do their little cameos. I actually love it when they do. When it's in the show, but this
Right.
feels a little different. This feels more contrived. It's almost like a little like I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a Mr. Rogers Neighborhood kind of thing, like where they're just like it's very set up, seems kind
Yeah.
of hokey, let's talk back about this. Oh, remember when we did this adventure? And then they'll show a clip, of this, or they'll show a clip of that. And like, I don't think there's going to be a lot of new information added to canon or any kind of like big twists or anything. It's just going
Yeah.
to be them kind of a lot of nostalgia, a lot of thinking
Yep.
back on old stuff.
Yeah. 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 Nope. Absolutely. Absolutely. Did you, slightly off topic, not on our agenda, did you see the video of Shruti Gatwa's doctor getting plugged into an episode that we have already seen, taking the place of where Matt Smith's doctor stood? Did you see that video?
I did see that. It's not necessarily a Doctor Who episode more than it was that Adventures in Space and Time
Yeah.
like special where they kind of did the whole, you know, I don't like they're basically it's like a drama, right? About the
Right.
first Doctor and the actor and all of that. So uh yeah, that it was kind of cool, but I didn't realize until later that it had just replaced. I thought it was like a new scene,
Yeah.
but I forgot that Matt Smith had even appeared in it, and that basically they're just replacing Matt Smith with Shuti Gatwa, which I'm kind of like, oh, does Matt Smith? I guess he doesn't get paid his like commission or whatever for that episode anymore if they don't use his face. Uh, but I thought I read somewhere that the idea was that they would always update that, like so
Yeah.
whoever the current doctor is, if they show that, they'll kind of always update it. Kind of a cool
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it.
That was my takeaway too, where it's like, oh, it's actually cool that they had that forethought of the first doctor will always be looking at
The
whoever our
latest.
current iteration of the doctor is. I think that's a cool concept, just
Yeah.
considering the
I
character
guess
of the
they
doctor.
skipped. How many doctors did they skip?
Yeah,
they
they skipped Capaldi
they
and
went from 11 to 14. No, they went
yeah,
from 11 to
no,
15.
15. Yeah,
Yeah.
14 would be Tennant all over again.
Yeah. So that's interesting that they gave that honor to Matt Smith and then to Shuti Gatwa and
Yeah.
skipped the ones in between. So we'll see who gets to be on it next.
Yeah. Yep. Cool.
All right, let's talk about the special, the Star Beast. Uh, so I guess it's kind of the first of the three specials that have been announced with David Tennant. We have two more coming in quick succession. But this was the big triumphant return, right, of David Tennant coming back to play the Doctor. We had been
Yep.
prepared for this. We knew it was coming, and now we get it. So this is based on, I guess, based on a comic that I didn't realize how much of it basically is kind of a retelling of the comic. I looked into it a little bit, and I guess it's the same storyline that was in the comic, but they just updated it. So it's new, different
Okay.
characters, different Doctor. I guess it originally happened to the fourth Doctor. Um, but they have now updated it to be the current TV characters that go through the exact same story. So I don't know if that's like happened before in Doctor Who. Maybe I'm just not super aware of it, even in like New Who, that they've kind of done a straight up adaptation of a comic or a novel. I'm sure they've mentioned characters from comics and
Yeah.
novels, but this feels like the biggest connection. If you're a big Doctor Who comic fan, maybe this is a big deal that like, oh wow, we're finally getting represented. Like they're bringing these comic stories to the big screen.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember at any other point in time in the past of our episodes talking through this that we would that it has been a direct adaptation. Like I know that, I mean, to your point, characters have been pulled in. We've pulled out different characters from different storylines here, there, and everywhere. But yeah, I don't think there has been um, a direct straight from comic to screen
Yeah, I guess
adaptation.
Beep the Meep was the worthy one
Beep
to
the meep.
get pulled in. I didn't do so. I knew when they first kind of the set pictures were coming out, and even the trailer, and they're kind of
Yeah.
revealing like what it's going to be about. The diehard fans were like, "Oh, we know this guy. Like we know that
Oh yeah.
character." Apparently, he's kind of been they. I guess maybe the comic he was in was so popular they did like a sequel to the comic. Then I think they did a novelization of the comic. They had him appear in like some special magazine issue where they interview him. Like there's a whole thing around this character. I didn't know any of it. And so I purposely didn't go back and look into it, or I didn't read the comic because I'm thinking, well, I
Yeah.
don't want the story to be spoiled for me. And so everything that happened in that episode was surprising to me, because I didn't go back and do that research. Did you kind of already spoil yourself? You tend to be one that likes to go and get the info.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned, especially, I mean, depending on the topic, I'm not too concerned about being spoiled. Beep the Meep showed up on my Twitter feed like the minute someone was able to get a picture of the set and there was some reference of Beep the Meep somewhere. So I did look into it and I like read, oh, cutthroat character, really evil, all this other stuff, which totally threw me off when we got into the episode. And I was like, wait a second, like, is this really the same Beep the Meep? And he had me fooled. I knew who this
Okay.
character was, and I was totally fooled, which is ridiculous to even admit. But no, other than that, I didn't really like go in depth in the comics. I didn't
Okay.
read all this extra stuff. It was just I was curious about the character. And I honestly was curious how he would look on the screen, because when you look at the drawn comic versions, it's like that's going to be really interesting to see translated, especially with some of the costumes we see on Doctor Who over the years. I was really curious to know what this character would end up as.
Yeah. Well, let's save that reaction because let's start at the beginning. So we get at the very
Cool.
beginning of the episode, we get we get an intro, I guess, or an
Yeah.
explainer before they even give us the new, kind of, theme song or theme music that comes in. We get this kind of like explainer with Donna and the doctor kind of talking to us, basically explaining, she can't remember the doctor. If she does, it'll kill her. She feels like there's something missing, blah, blah, blah. They're talking to us. And that's kind of the intro before it jumps into the new theme. Did you feel like that was necessary? Was it off-putting at all? Did you think it was needed? Did you like it? Like, what was your reaction to that?
Yeah, I didn't find it off-putting. To me, it's kind of made sense in a way of like, hey, you actually, well, number one, some of these storylines are 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It's at least 15 years old. Like it's nice to have some sort of reminder of where we left off. And then the fact that it's like the first episode on Disney Plus. Like it feels like you need some type of at least general overlay of at least the characters we're seeing now. I don't know if it would have been enough for someone who's going into the show totally out of the blue. I don't know if that would have been enough to actually get them up to speed. But for me, I was like, okay, I know these characters. Thank you for the reminders. And now let's hit the intro. I didn't find it off putting. I appreciated it. It helped to kind of get me in the right lane to move forward.
Yeah, I can see why they added it. I don't necessarily know if it was needed, just because I don't know, even if you watch the 9-minute explainer, if you would have been kind of up, like I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah,
when you
yeah.
come into a world like Doctor Who, it's kind of like Marvel. if you watch Avengers Endgame, you have no idea what's going on. You don't remember
Yeah.
what stone meant what, or why he needs this stone for that, or which stone he got where. You don't need that. You don't need an explainer for it either. You just kind of watch it because your friends are into it, and you're
The
like, oh,
spectacle.
yeah, it's the spectacle of it all. And I think with this, it feels like I see why they did it because it is kind of a big plot point. But I feel like they almost explain it just in the dialogue, pretty early on, where he meets her and
Yeah.
he doesn't want to talk to her. And then like her mom says you can't see. So it's almost like as the story kind of unfolds, it naturally explains like, oh, she's not allowed to kind of remember him.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was necessarily needed.
So this is, as it was going on, there was this big discussion taking place in my house between, like, I'm sitting down to watch it, my wife is walking around, and she said she was going to watch it with me. So I started the episode and she's still moving around, so I paused it. And I was like, Amber, if you're going to watch this episode with me, you probably need to watch this. And that's where, in my mind, I'm like, for her, I think it would have been needed so that she would have felt like, okay, I at least I know what's going on to some extent, because I feel like if it wasn't for that, there would be a lot of questions moving through the episode in regards to, like, even the initial thing where he takes the boxes and then puts them back up and like backs off. She would have just been like, same reaction as Donna. He's a jerk. What is she doing? Or what is he doing? Um, so I don't know. I'm mixed. I think it is helpful to some extent. And I feel like it's not entirely new. I feel like there's some Clara voiceovers as well that we've had in the past that kind of like,
There was definitely an Amy one,
an
which
Amy
I think
one.
they pretty much
Yes.
used as the intro of the entire season.
Yes. You're right.
That
You're
was
right.
Yeah, so there is precedence for it for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but so what do you think about the new title sequence?
I thought it was awesome. It's
Yeah,
totally different. It's not totally different, right? Like, there are elements to it that we have seen before,
yeah,
but it's a lot different than what we've seen recently, and I really liked it. I even love the new retro nameplate, like the
yeah.
branding
Oh
that they
yeah, the
pop up. Like,
retro logo is sweet. I loved it. I thought it looked so clean and
yes,
like because sometimes I get like Doctor Who came out in the 60s, the retro look is kind of part of the charm,
yeah,
but some of those title sequences just felt really dated and kind of hokey. Even the ones where it does have the TARDIS kind of flying through, and you're
yeah,
like, okay, that this looks like a 1980s sci-fi show kind of thing. Even though some of those episodes came out in the early 2000s, and
right,
so felt so modern, so clean, like the special effect or whatever you would call it, the artistic elements of it as it's flying through and skipping off like kind of the
yeah,
timey-wimey clouds. I don't know what they are, but it's kind of going through there, and the colors that they picked, it was very like just very impressive. It looked really
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like and I don't want to keep giving credit to Disney Plus, because honestly, I don't know
They might
what
not have had anything
Disney,
to do with it. Yeah.
right? They might not have, but there is something about, throughout the episode, there are times where it's like, oh wow, like, I feel like a couple years ago, this would have been a different quality than what we have on the screen right now. Like, there were things that just seemed crisp and clean and like very well thought out. Um, yeah, and it hits you right from the start. It hits right from that title sequence. It's like, okay, cool. This is great. I love it.
Yep. And like right as the show starts, so we get the scene where the TARDIS, kind of appears, and we've seen it already in the trailers a lot. David Tennant pops out. You get 10th Doctor is now back. 14th Doctor. We knew it, but it's kind of cool to see it for real. He pops his head
Yeah.
out. He looks around. He's walking through kind of the crowd, and it's almost like he's strutting a little bit, kind of like, yeah, I'm back. He's looking at everybody. You almost get this sense that he was like hoping somebody would recognize them or like, hey, look, it's the Doctor. He just kind of had this confidence and almost a little borderline arrogance about the way he was kind of carrying himself in that early scene. That was so David Tennant, so
Yeah.
10th
Yep.
Doctor. I will say, because I know they were saying, oh, this is a different Doctor. He's the 14th, so he's not the 10th. We're going to make him different. But I'm like, I don't know. To me, he's just the 10th Doctor. Like, there wasn't some distinguishing characteristic of this new version that made me feel like, oh, okay, there's definitely a difference between the 10th and the 14th. It just felt
Yeah.
like he's back.
Yeah. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, maybe something in the next two episodes,
Right.
you'll see what that differentiation is. In this episode, it truly felt like he's back. It's the same doctor, the same way that I mean, in some of the look back things that they showed, there's another short that they did of the introduction of Dr. Donna. Like some of the way that Tennant's doctor talked about Donna or reacts to Donna or interacts with Donna in some of those scenes that they show, it's identical to how he's talking and interacting. Like the way that he interacts with Wilf in some of these scenes, the same way that he's like, I love that man. Like it's the same doctor. He has the exact same feelings about the people that he's interacting with. Sitting in the
Yeah.
back of the cab with Donna's husband is
Yeah.
just like, oh, yep, that's Donna. Oh, yep, I totally understand that.
Yeah. It's the
I don't
10th
know how
Doctor.
you can say, yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
It's because I was kind of afraid actually that they would have done something a little more risky and said, like, what if he did show up and he was just completely different personality and he sees Donna and doesn't really care that he sees Donna because he doesn't really, he's a new doctor. He doesn't
yeah,
really have that same connection. And so they could have done something way more risky, maybe even more interesting, where they could say, hey, we're really, yeah, it's a different guy. Like it's the same actor, but it's a different character. And they could have really leaned into that. I'm kind of glad they didn't, because for me, him being my favorite doctor, I wanted to see that. I want to see him again. I
yeah,
want to see that. I want to see the 10th Doctor. And so that's what they gave me, at least for the first episode. We'll see, how that
right,
sticks throughout the next. But I mean, they go right into it. He shows up, he sees Donna right away. Like
yep,
she's carrying the boxes, he sees her. Like you said, the interactions, he starts to walk away and she's like, oi, like she does the whole, yelling at him and then she says Rose, and he's like, what? Like it's literally the same kind of interaction, same dialogue, which you're having all this nostalgia for it. You're like, oh, I love that kind of Doctor and Donna
yeah,
interaction. And they're just giving it to us literally within the first minute of the show.
yeah. 15 years, right? Like 15 years. And they've done things together. Tennant and Tate have done things together since
Right.
Dr. Donna.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's something about seeing these two individuals fall back into character and like just pick up with all of these things, all these feels that we had when we watched these episodes that originally aired 15 years ago. It's just like, oh wow. Like that it's almost like they are Doctor Who's security blanket right now, right? Like with all these big transitions that are taking place, with all these big changes that are happening, to be able to go back to two solid foundational characters, it's it is a safety net. It is a security blanket, and I'm here for it. Like they do have me hooked through these two characters. There's something about them that I will watch no matter what the storyline is. I'm here for it. They nailed it.
Yeah, some funny interaction. She tells him that his suit is too tight. Like you can wear a suit that tight up to what she said, up to 35. And
Right,
then he kind
right.
of is like, he reacts because I think David Tennant's, I think he's like 50s now, right? Like, isn't he early
That's
50s? So,
yeah, I mean, he's up there.
she makes a little comment, I guess, kind of like, oh yeah, that you used to be able to wear, a skinny suit, but not really. You shouldn't anymore. You're too old. I thought that was funny. Um,
That that hits way too close to home right now. Way too close to home.
oh, definitely. Uh, and then his psychic paper was still referring to him as a woman, which I thought was funny.
Yep,
He's
yep,
like, "Oh, catch up," to his psychic paper. That was
yep.
a funny interaction. Of course, Donna. There's a spaceship that crashes. Or the Doctor sees it. Rose sees it. And when we say Rose, don't be confused if you haven't watched the episode. We're not talking about Rose Tyler. It's Donna's
I mean,
daughter.
even then, when Rose was first mentioned, and Tennant's doctor is like, "What?" and he's like looking around, right?
Yeah,
Like again, solid moment right there.
yeah. So yeah, when we refer to Rose in this episode, we're talking about actually Donna's daughter. And so Rose sees the ship crash. Of course, Donna doesn't see it. She's kind of got this, she's kind of known for, right, like missing these big moments.
Yep.
Even before she lost her memory, she would kind of miss these big moments and stuff. So she didn't even see it happen. But we have this spaceship that crashes. Um, let's see what, oh, and then I guess the doctor meets Donna's husband
Yep.
and kind of pretends that he's a friend. So he mentions Neris or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
which is her, which I thought was funny that she got a number of mentions throughout the episode. But he realized, or he starts talking to her husband and kind of realizes that, he had left them a winning lottery ticket and they ended up not keeping the money. Like she
Right.
actually gave it away. So she's not like wealthy and everything. Like he had kind of tried to leave her and her family set with this money, and then she just gave it all away to charity.
Yeah, something that is very uncharacteristic of Donna, right? And even the doctor seems a little confused and puzzled. And it is one of those things that comes up periodically through the episode where, like, why did you do this? Why did you give up the money? It's the running question. We do get resolution towards the end of the episode, but it is one of those things where the doctor seems to know exactly who Donna is, but that is the one thing that puzzles him is why did she give up the money?
Yeah, because we know Donna would never give up that kind of money. She would be the one to keep the millions and kind
Right.
of live a lavish lifestyle if it was up to her. So we do get Unit in this episode. Unit is kind of they show up because there's this crash spaceship. They show up to kind of help contain it. We do get introduced to a new character from Unit.
Yeah.
And what was her name? Oh, Shirley Ann Bingham. So we got a new character, I believe a new character. I'm not remembering her from anything else.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when she was announced as a brand new character.
Yeah. Kind of notable. She's in a wheelchair. And so she actually interacts with the doctor some. She's not like a huge character, but she does have enough kind of to do. I was sometimes I get annoyed when characters are just kind of thrown in and then it's like, okay, what was their purpose? But she felt like she didn't have a ton to do, but I didn't mind her kind of being there, and I could see her being used, if she's part of Unit, kind of as they move forward with Unit, with either in this storyline with the next couple episodes or with Shuti Gatwa's doctor. I feel like we're going to see her again.
Yeah, she's kind of like that the flip side of, and this is where Osgood, she's like the flip side of Osgood, right? Like where Osgood was like the doctor, like she had her scarf that matched the doctor's scarf, and anytime the doctor shows up, she was like taking her inhaler. She was super obsessed with the doctor. Shirley, on the other hand, is just like, yeah, I know who you are. You're back. Why are you hiding in the corner? And then she knew the doctor. She knew who the doctor was. She was happy to see him, although it was different than what a different face, all that other stuff. But she wasn't overly impressed by him. I appreciated how self-sufficient of a character she was. She appreciated the doctor, but wasn't overly obsessed with it. Osgood's awesome. I love Osgood. Osgood was fun while Osgood lasted, but she surely is a different side of that character.
Yeah, she definitely respected the doctor.
Yes,
and kind of was happy to see him. Oh, you're like, hey, doctor. Like she kind of was very nonchalant about how she met him, but she also
yeah,
wasn't disrespectful of kind of
right.
like what he could bring to the table.
Yeah, when she's like, off you pop, and he's like,
Yeah,
waited your whole life, and
yeah,
she said, you wish.
you
Like,
wish. Yeah,
great report right there.
right. Um, let's see. We kind of learn a little bit more about Rose. She's making these kind of plush toys, I guess, kind of as a side business.
Yeah,
So we see some of that. We also see that she is made fun of. She's being bullied a bit, I guess. So she's a character who is not, I guess they're kind of saying she's a non-binary character that used to identify as male, but now, or used to identify as male, but now identifies as female.
yeah,
And so she presents as female. And so I guess at some point in that transition, she, obviously is being made fun of by some of her schoolmates. It seems like her grandmother has fully accepted that, but is still a little kind of like not knowing how to deal with it because she was like, oh, if I think she's gorgeous, is that the right word to use? That kind of thing.
Right. Yep.
Donna is fully accepting of who her daughter is and has no issues and is completely like, hey, if anybody gives you a hard time, I will be there for you. I will fight them if I have to, kind
Right.
of attitude. So we do see they don't really focus a lot on kind of the bullying aspect or that being something that she struggles with. She didn't even seem to be that phased by it when, kind of when the guys on the bikes were kind of mocking her. She just
Yeah.
kind of like rolled with it and was kind of like, hey, it's no big deal. And so that wasn't like a huge focus of the episode, but they did kind of point that out kind of early on with her character. That is something that she is non-binary and used to be, present as male. And I guess the name Jason was maybe
Yes.
the
Yep.
maybe the name that they gave her at birth. So, and there's more on that later, but it
Yeah.
was, something that they kind of brought up pretty early.
And I think like to what you said as far as like it doesn't seem to bother her. I do think the way that it plays off in some of these scenes, yeah, it does seem like she's just able to kind of like roll with it. She doesn't want it to be made a big deal out of. And yet there are reflections throughout the episode where I mean even towards the end with some of the resolution where she feels out of place. She feels like she can't be herself. She feels like she is an alien. She has some of these conversations with even Beep the Meep,
Yeah.
where they're the same because they are both lonely and alone. And even I think Beep the Meep reflects on that, where he's like, "You seem lonely." So it doesn't bother her visually or outwardly, but that is an aspect of this character where at least through the first part of the episodes of this episode, and we have resolution at the end, right? Like there's some statements made at the end, but she doesn't feel quite like she wants to feel. There's something that is amiss, and she can't put her finger on it.
Yeah. And she comes across Beep the Meep pretty early. She doesn't seem that phased by the fact that she just discovered an alien.
Yeah,
Kind of just rolled with it and kind of was like, hey, let me help you hide. Let me, kind of figure out how I can help you. I mean, she definitely seems to be a character who, you know, is a caring, kind person, right? Like,
yeah, yep,
she's a good soul, in how
yep.
they portray her character. Um, there is the random kid that shows up that's like the neighbor kid that I'm like, when I talk about characters that don't matter, like why?
Right, right.
Literally the only role that kid had was to look out the window a couple times in the episode.
Yeah,
Um,
yep.
so that was kind of an interesting. I kind of almost wonder if either there was more intended for that character that kind of ended up on the cutting room floor, or that maybe this character shows up in a later episode and has more of a role, and they're just kind of introducing him. But like, yeah, he just literally shows up, has a couple lines, and then they show him look out the window a couple times.
I think you're probably spot on because he's the next door neighbor, and because some of the comments that Donna makes later in the episode, where she's like, "Hey, maybe you can try something new, stick around, be a friend.
Hmm.
We can grab coffee." I think a lot of the two coming episodes are going to focus on like Donna's family, the home, the house. They said Unit's going to rebuild it because, as we'll probably get to, Unit destroys the house. I do think you're probably absolutely right. This kid might seem useless in this episode, but I feel like he might be that useless kid that we see in future episodes too. He's probably always going to be the kid looking out his window, seeing what's happening. He probably is. There's probably going to be a dramatic moment where something happens to him. But yeah, it is one of those things. He runs by. Did you hear about the spaceship? And then like he runs off, and then he's in the alleyway, and then he runs off again, and then he's out his window. Yeah, that's the character.
Yeah, I'd be completely fine if he doesn't show up again. Just kind of pointless.
He's gonna go
But
on a field trip. He's gonna have a sleepover in the TARDIS. It's gonna be great.
oh no,
It's
yeah,
he's gonna bring his friends.
yeah. Um, so yeah, we get Beep the Meep and kind of like except like fast forwarding a little bit. So he's kind of hiding with them. These Rarth warriors are trying to catch him. Unit actually goes into the ship and they open the door of the ship and some kind of entity comes out and basically a smaller group of the unit soldiers get hypnotized. And so now they're looking for Beep the Meep.
Yep.
So we have a couple different groups that are looking for him, but at this point, we don't really understand why. It kind of seems like, oh, these aliens are just kind of out to get him. He seems like
Yep.
this nice little cuddly, cute character that they're trying to protect. So you're kind of siding with him at this point. If you're not aware of his, comic self, like, you're not seeing it coming that, he eventually is revealed to be evil.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's trying, they're with the doctor. The doctor does reveal like a new power that I didn't realize the sonic screwdriver had, that he can like make walls or make like
Yeah. Yeah.
shields. That was interesting. I guess it was kind of in the moment they needed to get up that stairwell, and they're like, well, the sonic screwdriver can do whatever we want it to do. So let's, so that's a new thing.
I mean, how helpful would that have been previously, though? Like, I can think of a number of episodes where that would have been a beneficial thing to have.
It's a new
Um,
Sonic though. So I mean it could just
yeah.
be maybe previous Sonics didn't have that feature.
I mean, yeah,
He
maybe,
upgraded. Well, that's
maybe.
something like it's worth noting, and I think you were kind of alluding to it before. We don't get the discovery moments with this doctor,
Right.
that we
Yeah.
get usually with a new doctor, where they kind of, I guess we get it some, but we don't get the transition, where sometimes there's like, they're not fully themselves and they're kind of sick, or they're laying on the couch, that kind of thing that happens with a couple different doctors,
Yeah.
or they discover their new Sonic, or make their new
Yeah.
Sonic like Jodie Whittaker did. Tennant just shows up, new outfit. He didn't discover it; it just came with him. He already came out of the TARDIS, so we don't know what's going on with there. We'll find out later. And then he already has a new Sonic, and so we don't know where he got it. Did the TARDIS give it to him? Did he have one laying around? Did he upgrade his current Sonic, with just new features?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't get those discovery moments, and I'm completely fine with that. I feel like that would
Oh,
have been
yeah.
time wasted with this
Yeah.
character. So I'm glad they kind of skipped all that and just said, "Oh, yep, he's got a new Sonic. We're not going to really explain where it came from, and it also can make these cool shields too."
And I mean, for all their hubbub about like, hey, he's a totally new doctor, the fact that we don't have those discovery moments, I feel like is an indication in and of itself that this is the same doctor. Like, he's not confused by who he is. He's just confused as to why he's back. He
True.
knows exactly who he is, and he doesn't have those discovery. He's not saying like, whose teeth are these? He's not like, oh, what do I like now? He knows exactly what he likes, who he is, and who he loves. And like, he's nailed those three things already. We don't need any other discoveries. The TARDIS piece,
Yes, that's
that's
what I was going to get
curious to
to.
me.
The TARDIS is the big discovery because apparently the TARDIS needed to refresh on the inside.
Okay,
But
yes.
when? Like, so we know with Jodie
Yeah,
Whittaker, it looked a certain way. He regenerated, and the TARDIS still looked that way. He traveled somewhere because he went to the Daleks to give him the plunger that we
yeah.
talked about. And so we know he's already been inside the TARDIS, so he knows what it looks like. And then he came out and did all his stuff here. So when he goes back, now we're kind of skipping all the way to the end because this does happen at the very end
Yeah.
of the episode, but we're talking about it, so we might as well. So he goes back in the TARDIS with Donna, and it's a new interior. I mean, it's
It's all
new.
new.
Like it's like
Yeah.
completely different than what we've seen with 10, with any other Doctor. It's got some reminiscence of, they definitely use some elements that kind of are reminiscent to a few different Doctors. But I mean, this is like a brand new interior, and he's excited. He's running around. So yeah, I don't know what, because usually it's like the TARDIS gets destroyed, or
Yeah.
the interior gets destroyed, or the TARDIS goes away for a while and comes back. Like there's usually some kind of event that causes it to reset on the inside. So the fact that it was just like it just did, there's really no reason why,
Yeah.
but maybe it was just due for a change. But yeah, I mean, I thought the interior looked fantastic. I just love the
Yeah.
clean look
Yep.
of it, and like how it's just kind of that stark white with like kind of the balls kind of look everywhere, which is kind of reminiscent to some of the older TARDISes, and the way the lights kind of change color as stuff's going
Yeah.
on, and the console has some, I don't know, like the whole thing, and how it has the ramps and he's running up and down the ramps, and he seemed
Yeah.
really giddy. Like I was just like, wow, that's a cool TARDIS interior. I wonder if it sticks around. Is it just David Tennant's,
That's
or does Shuti Gatwa get to use the same one? I don't know. We'll see.
yeah. I mean, it's in full panic mode at the end of the episode, right?
Yeah.
And again, we're fast forwarding. So it's like, does it reset again? But yeah, it wasn't until you started mentioning the whole TARDIS and sonic screwdriver that I was like, wait, that at what point did it change? Because at the end of the episode, he's super surprised by what it looks like. So you're right. There is like some dead spot in there that it changes.
Just decided to
That
change. I mean,
they
the
just
TARDIS
decided to
is kind
change.
of its own, kind of does its own thing sometimes. So maybe it was
It's
like, you
its
know
own
what,
character.
I'm due for a change, so
Yep.
it just did. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and the whole idea, like him saying, like you were saying, he doesn't know who he is, or he does know who he is, but just the kind of confusion about why, why is he
Yeah.
back? Why are they using his face again? It does seem like they're kind of they keep bringing that up. It almost felt like at one point they were saying, "Oh, maybe he used this face almost as a way for Donna to remember,
Yeah.
so she would become Dr. Donna again. That way she could help him in the when he needed her to help, so they could save London." So I was like, "Oh, is it that simple? Like they just regenerated this face just so he could do this one act." But then at the end, they still said it again. Like, why this face again? So I guess that wasn't the resolution. I kind of felt like they had built it into the story, but then they kind of went back on it at the end.
No, I think you're spot on. It does feel like there is that aspect of like, oh, the universe is taking me back to Donna. That's why I need this face. That's the reason. But then at that end, everything changes and Donna's like, why? But still, why? Why your face? And we don't know. It's almost like the I mean, it's Capaldi's question all over again. Like, why this face, right? Like
Mm.
Capaldi asked the exact same question. Um, there's a reason, there's a purpose, there always is. It's just going to be interesting to see what that answer is.
Yeah, I feel like it'll be a recurring kind of theme
Yeah.
for these next couple episodes, and then maybe they'll be a little bit more definitive about it at some point. We all know that the reason is so they can make more money with that face, but what's the in story, the in universe reason?
Right, right. Tennant's the security blanket. You got to give us those warm fuzzies.
50th and
Once.
60th.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
they brought him back multiple times. So I guess maybe it's Smith's turn next when they do the 70th anniversary or whatever. It'll be a Matt Smith turn because he's a bit younger than Tennant. So he
Yeah,
could probably come back and play the Doctor for a
that
longer
would
portion of time than Tennant can.
that'd be wild. I'm not gonna lie. If Tennant or if Smith started making appearances again, I think I'm at that point where it's like I can see his doctor coming back and coming back different. Like I don't think his
Yeah,
doctor would come back as the doctor that we know. I could see his doctor coming back as different. Tennant, I wouldn't want him to come back as different. Smith, I think the dude's got range and he could probably come back totally different and just be wicked cool the entire time.
he had a lot of range as he was the Doctor. Like he kind of did
Yeah.
the whole gamut of like super clowny, and then other times he's like almost borderline dark. But I
Yeah.
think like having him come back and be a little bit more on the dark end for the whole time would be cool. We got that with Capaldi. Capaldi was kind of the dark doctor for a while.
Yeah.
So maybe yeah, seeing Smith do that would be kind of cool. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. I mean, we're
Yeah,
still
we're all over the
enjoying
place.
Tennant coming back, much
Right.
less getting excited for an eventual Smith return. Just think 20 years from now, we're going to be nostalgic for Jodie Whittaker and be like, oh man, I wonder if she'd come back. Like, time flies.
Right. No, absolutely. It does.
But yeah, so we were talking about, yeah, so let's get to Meep, beep the meep. So he does eventually, the Doctor does this kind of like little faux trial, puts on the wig. This part I kind of rolled my eyes at. It's kind of silly. I was just like, this is kind of dumb. But he does the whole thing. He puts on the wig, does the trial, brings the warriors in. Suddenly these warriors who like up to this point were like shooting at them and kind of like growling, and now they have like these proper English voices and they're like, oh, we're actually just trying to hunt him down, and he's so now they kind of made that shift. And then uh Beep the Meep doesn't even try to like play along. At this point he's just like, you know what, I'm evil, pulls out his gun, shoots those guys, kills them, and almost murders Donna
Yeah.
and Rose, and almost murders them too. But then the Doctor kind of jumps in and stops it. So now we have this, the big reveal, I guess, for anyone who wasn't in the know for this character and kind of what his true nature is. But you kind of already knew, I think, that it was coming, but
I did, and yet I was still in the dark. I don't know why. I was like, oh, they totally changed this character. It's not Beat the Meep.
he's just
It's
good the whole
like
time.
he's just a good guy. I mean, yeah, I didn't understand why Unit was chasing after him.
Yeah.
That made no sense to me. Um,
Yeah.
but
And it was,
that switch from like good, cute Beep the Meep to evil, bloodthirsty, warmonger Beep the Meep, that's like very akin to Bilbo in The Hobbit. Like that scene where he's like, "That's my ring," and he lunges forward. It was like almost at that point where it's like, "Oh dang, like we're really dark right now." That thing is crazy.
yeah, the sharp teeth come out,
Yeah,
the eyes change because he had these big round eyes and then they kind of change and like it's like a little scrunched in, kind of that evil look. I mean, intimidating looking. Like I wouldn't want to
yeah,
come up. It did go from this like soft, cuddly looking thing to being something that I would be afraid to come up against in an alley. Like, oh my gosh, that thing's
right.
gonna murder me. It's like Gremlins, kind of like the
Yeah, yep,
Gremlins are
yep,
like
yep.
soft and cuddly, and then they turn evil. He definitely had his Gremlin moment. Um, yeah, I mean, it was interesting, I guess, but probably not my favorite villain they've ever had. Um, but
it. I mean,
I thought the
at the end of
costume was
this,
done well. I will give him that because they Doctor Who was kind of known for cheesy aliens and kind of, and even
yeah,
the Rarth warriors. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, but they even kind of had that cheesy Doctor Who kind of costumey look to them. But
yeah.
I thought they did a pretty good job with Meep. He felt more along the lines of a higher end, kind of costume, and they took the time on the animatronics on the eyes and the mouth and stuff to make it look pretty cool.
I think to me that it was the probably the one of a couple spots that the episode could have gone the direction of like cheesy. It could have been like, oh, okay, there's a low quality piece right there. But they really did nail it. It looked great. At the end of the story, Beep the Meep, the entire story, honestly, isn't overly complex. It's like you crash on a planet because you are getting hunted down, your ship is getting repaired, and you plan on destroying the planet because that's the only way you can take off in your spaceship. Very straightforward, not overly complex. It's just the background for Donna's story, the Doctor's story, and then the part that Rose plays in it. Um,
Right.
it's just filler, really, at the end of it, and which I think that's why you can kill the Roth warriors so quickly, and it just be like, oh, okay, we're here now. This is
Yeah.
what we're doing.
The first time I watched it, there was a little confusion for me on the entity that kind of brainwashes the unit
Oh yeah, yep,
group. I was like, what is that? And like, how is that related to Beep the Meep? And then on a rewatch, I listening to the dialogue, it's like, oh, apparently that's actually kind of what happened to his
yeah.
people. There's this psychedelic sun kind of situation going on. So I guess he carried some of that with him in the ship. And then that's what he used to kind of brainwash the unit. So, because I was starting to think maybe that was when he says that he's going to report to his master or to
Yeah.
whoever. I thought maybe that was something to do with his master, but now I'm thinking it's not. It's completely unrelated. Just something to do with the psychedelic sun from the planet that he came from.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things though that like when I see it, Doctor Who needs to be really careful of because my first thought was like, oh, it's the inside of a TARDIS. Like,
Oh,
oh, it's the energy from that we see come out of the Doctor so many times. It's the regeneration energy. Like so many of those things look identical.
similar. Yeah,
Right. And it's what it's instantly you're like, oh, that's not what it is because
but
it's
it
not
does.
doing good things.
Yeah, it does remind you. Yeah, they do use that a lot. It's kind of that dusty, cloudy kind of
Yeah.
entity-esque kind of thing that they do. They use a lot in Doctor
Yeah.
Who.
Yeah.
But
It was
yeah, so
cool. It was cool to see Tennant call out the Shadow Proclamation
oh yeah,
protocols.
when he
Like,
says the Shadow Proclamation, that's a nice callback anytime that comes
oh
up.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
That's all I wanted to say.
But yeah, so we get that we we get to a point where I guess he's trying to activate the drive. What's going to happen is it's going to destroy London essentially, because they're
Yeah.
right by London. It's going to break up the ground. And so when he takes off, it seems like a really weird kind of thing, like that you would need that, but yeah. So his takeoff is basically going to kill 9 million people when Beep the Meep leaves the planet. So the doctor's obviously trying to stop that. Him and Donna go up into the ship. And initially, it's going to be just him trying to do it. Donna tells her family, "You guys get away. I'm going to go help him." She's slowly remembering the doctor, which is worth pointing out. They really established the fact that if she remembers the doctor, she will die.
Yeah. Yep.
Apparently, that's not an instantaneous thing because she definitely remembered the doctor, well before they got to the whole meta crisis stuff. And so she's starting to remember him. She refers to him as the doctor. She actually says something about how, like, I felt like that's something the doctor knows, something that he would do. So she's referring to the doctor and before she ever kind of remembers. So even the fact that he showed up to her house and that he's like kind of hanging out with them, like the idea of him like really being careful about not having her remember was kind of thrown out the window pretty early.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is, it's, it's tough to wrestle with in this episode, right? Because it is very firmly established 15 years ago that this is actually a bad thing, right? Like you have Wilf and the doctor sitting at the table, and Donna's out on the street, and Wolf is like, just go up to her, just go up to her. And the doctor's like, I can't, or she will die. Like,
Yeah.
even that small interaction, the doctor's like, nope, it's over. She can't handle it. And so to have these interactions, you are looking for like, hey, like, I need some explanation. Like, this has to be explained away because for the last 15 years, I've been like, oh, she can't see the doctor. She'll explode.
Right. Yeah, you
Yeah,
you were under the impression that if she just saw him,
right.
it would be over. But now it's kind of like, no, she can actually hang out with him and kind of have her memories like pricked a little bit when you talk about all this
Yeah,
stuff. And that, it really wasn't until she became Dr. Donna that then the doctor thought she was in danger of dying.
right.
It
Yep.
was the act of making her, like, reminding her of that and bringing it back and having her actually get that power back. That's really what he thought was going to kill her, not just seeing him. So it kind of
Right.
it definitely is not consistent with what they had us thinking based on the way it ended before. They definitely stretched the rules a little bit, I think, so they could have all these moments together.
Yeah.
They can't have a whole episode where they can't interact. So they have to
So,
have that.
so I do think like I do feel like they stretched it, but I feel like they stretched it with an explanation. I feel like there is a reason, and we don't find out what that reason is until like the very end of the episode. And then it's like, oh, that's
But
why.
did the doctor know that reason?
No, the
So
doctor
that
doesn't know.
so it still doesn't
Right.
track because
No,
he's being reckless.
right.
If he didn't know that, yeah, you're right. There is an explanation at the end where you could be like, oh, she was never in danger anyways because she was, sharing this burden. But we
Yeah.
didn't know that, and Doctor
Right.
didn't know that. He clearly
Right.
didn't know that.
Yep.
So it still doesn't track that he shouldn't have been that cavalier
Right.
about
Right. For
how he
someone
was
he
acting around
loved,
her.
for
Yeah.
someone he loved, he was not playing by the rules. What did you think of the Winter Soldier repeat these words and I'm gonna unlock these memories? Was that established?
That's
Like
what I was trying to. I thought you would remember, so I was like, I was going to lean on
no.
you on this one. I was trying to remember. Is that how? Because the only thing I could think of was when the doctor was like the school teacher, and
Okay, yes.
I felt like when they
Yes.
were trying to get him out of it, maybe there was a scene where they were saying some key words. We'll have to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that that's definitely what happened, and I'm sure listeners are yelling at us again, but I don't remember that that's how he snapped out of it. But I do have this vague memory of maybe that was an element that had been introduced, and I'm just not remembering all the details. But yeah, that did seem weird to me that it was kind of like these words. He kept saying these key words, and then she kind of snapped out of it. And then, well, not snapped out of it, but kind of had those suddenly remembered that,
Right.
and then she regained the powers of Dr. Donna.
Yeah. And I've been trying to figure out like, do these words
Mean
connect?
anything? Yeah.
Yeah, do they connect to episodes? Like, do they connect to experiences with the Doctor. I don't think they do. Like Pelican, I don't
There's
remember a
probably
single
some Easter
Pelican.
egg in there that we're just not catching,
Yeah.
but it was very convenient that the control room that they were in had a perfectly split, thing that would come up in the middle, like, just so they
Right.
would be separated. That was pretty convenient design there. And then the doctor just got to the point where he was just like, yeah, the only way we can save all these people is I need your help and you're going to die.
Yeah.
And in kind of in true doctor, or at least 10th doctor form, totally okay with people dying sometimes if he knows it's the right thing to do in the moment.
Right.
And I think he for the greater good was willing to sacrifice Donna, which other doctors maybe wouldn't have done, but I feel like 10 had kind of established that.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to the fires of Pompeii, right? Where he's like, I'm the one that causes this. I have to kill 20,000 people. And I mean, to some extent, Donna understands too. Like in that scene, Donna does it with the Doctor. Like she takes some of that weight from Tennant and is like, okay, I'll bear it too. And she goes through it with him. So on the same side, Donna's like, yeah, this is what we have to do.
Yeah, she was
Um,
cool with it, right?
yeah,
Yeah, she was cooler with her fate than the original 10th doctor was with his.
right, right.
Where he was kind of basically crying as he was about to die. She was just like, all
Yeah,
right, I'm gonna die. And you never really, as a viewer, you're never thinking she's gonna die, right? Because you kind of
yeah,
know, there's more specials to come. She's in, and we haven't seen some stuff that we've seen in the trailer, so we know she sticks around. And so, like, they did kind of have a dramatic-esque moment, even like with the doctor kind of doing the whole, like, why did it have to be this way, or whatever. And like, he kind of gets into that kind of drama. But
yeah,
for this episode, it wasn't really earned. I felt like
right,
at the end of the 10th Doctor's run, and it's like he had 5 years as the Doctor, and, he's basically about to die. And he kind of does the whole like dramatic, like he gets real mad at Wilf, and
yeah,
I don't want to go, and all that drama. It was earned. You felt it. You're like watching that, and you're like getting tears in your eyes, and you're like, yeah, this is earned. In this episode, when he got all dramatic, it didn't really hit me because I was like,
yeah.
you
That's
didn't really earn this moment yet. Like, it's your first episode back.
right. And you know how it's gonna end, right? Like it kind of
Yeah.
falls flat at that point just because it's nothing can happen. Like there are definitely been times I'd be hard pressed right now to think of one that Doctor Who like usurps your expectations. It subverts your expectations. That's what I want to say. This was not one of those moments. Like you did not expect them to pull the rug out from
No.
underneath you here.
We know they're
Like there's
both
no way.
Yeah, we know they're both getting out of there alive. We know that they're defeating Beep the Meep. There's
Yep.
no drama here where he's coming up against the master and he's about to
Right.
regenerate, or he's about to lose a companion. Yeah, it definitely wasn't earned in this moment for us to ever believe it.
Right.
So it was kind of like, she lays down in his arms and he seems upset, but then like, oh wait, what? And then now, they,
Everything's fine.
yeah. And then we do get the resolution where I guess the explanation is that Rose, because Rose is Donna's daughter, that she inherited the metacrisis stuff. So
Yeah.
like, she was basically spreading that burden across her and her daughter. And so that's why she actually was able to survive it.
Yeah.
And so they have this small moment of like Dr. Donna and then Dr. Rose. And then so Dr. Rose goes into the whole like, like kind of explaining the stuff and all the terms and all that stuff, kind of the same moment that we got with Dr. Donna. And she is able to help them defeat, ultimately defeat Beep the Meep, and Donna didn't die.
Yeah.
So it was like,
Yep.
okay, interesting. Like, I didn't expect that. It was a twist that caught me off guard, that
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of that it was kind of a shared meta crisis. But then once again, it's the explanation, but then they also still have to get rid of it because the doctor says, well, eventually,
Yeah.
even with the two of you, it'll still overwhelm you. So you still need to get rid of it.
Right. Right. And honestly, they had, in my mind, they had two more episodes to deal with for that, right? Like it
Oh, you
could have
wanted it
been
to stick
a
around?
I I would prefer it. And this is the one exception I will take to the episode. Okay. This is where I did the whole like face palm, head to desk, like, really? That's how we're gonna resolve this 15-year setup of like, oh my goodness, this is the worst thing ever. At least give me two more episodes where the doctor goes through a process of trying to deal with this. Instead, the resolution is just let it go.
Yeah.
That's the resolution. That's how it ends.
Yeah. And we've kind of given that's been a thing with Doctor Who
Oh
that has
yes.
frustrated us in the past, where it's like the
Yeah.
simple solutions. Oh, just think happy thoughts and it'll fix it. And so the doctor, he for all this time, didn't really know how to fix this problem, and he kind of, put her in a trance and it made her forget and all this stuff. And then they're just like, oh, it's simple. Like you just don't understand because you're a male presenting, version of the doctor. If you were still the female presenting, you would have gotten this. To me, it's like, okay, I don't really understand how that makes sense, but it's an interesting way for them to put it. But yeah, I was kind of like, I mean, I don't care if it's a female, male, whatever. It still isn't a good explanation as to them just being like, oh, well, we know how to just let it go, and
Yeah.
it's not a
I
problem
mean,
anymore.
wouldn't the Dr. Donna have known to let it go? Like back when it happened
Maybe she needed
15 years ago? Maybe she needed Rose. I
She needed
just,
Rose. She needed 15 years of growth. Who knows?
yeah,
What it was a very simple resolution
right,
and very unsatisfying because of all the drama that had been
right.
built up of how big of a deal it was that she had this meta crisis, and then the fact that they were able to just let it go was weird.
And I think that's the biggest thing. Like I've come to accept there are these things that are resolved in Doctor Who just by letting go, just by thinking happy thoughts. And and for the most part, it's like a small chuckle, like, oh, we saw it again. Moffat was great for these things, right? Like
I
the
thought it was
happy
a Moffat
thoughts,
thing.
the
Yeah, it's
yeah.
yeah,
I think what hits me about this one is right, like what it resolves was such an emotionally impactful scene years ago, right? Like it dramatically, I mean, it established the mythos of these characters. It was a big deal. And then just to like, it just feels like it does that a disservice. Like at least make it seem like this was actually still a big deal. The whole Rose and Donna sharing stuff, that's cool. Like I
yeah,
understand. Like you can pass half of it on to another character, and I'm cool with that. It makes sense. I can kind of see the logic. But when it's just like a let it go, like give me something that makes it seem like the weight that it had years ago, that weight was actually legitimate. It
yeah.
kind of cheapens those moments where I'm trying to think of another example of like if we were to take Bad Wolf from Rose and just like totally flip it on its head 20 years now later and be like, oh, actually, all you had to do is like just touch this part of your nose and everything would go away. I would be like, what? Like, that's where we are right now. I kind of feel the same about this. Like, it was such a big deal. Like, we've looked forward to these moments.
I think maybe they felt like they could use it as a triumphant moment for the character of Rose.
Yeah.
You had talked before about her feeling like an outsider and didn't really fully, kind of know who she was, or maybe not fully accept who she was, and kind of feeling like she fits in. And so maybe this was just an opportunity for them to say, hey, we have this moment where we could have her, show that where she does fully embrace who she is. And because of that, maybe now has that shared power with her mom to go ahead and let it go. It still feels cheesy, but I can see maybe where they see that as like, oh, the audience will accept this because it's a moment of empowerment for this character and not necessarily a great explanation for the science behind it, I guess, or lack
Yeah.
of.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's probably what the intention was. It just
I
didn't
see that.
land. I don't think it landed for either of us, but maybe for
Yeah.
some portion of the audience, maybe felt like that was worth it.
And I think you're spot on just because the dialogue and context, like right after that, Rose is the one that says, after all these years, I'm finally me. Like
Right.
there is that resolution for that character where it probably was the meta crisis that she's been dealing with this entire time. and letting it go, she can finally feel like herself. I did think the crocheted characters, the monsters that Rose has been creating, the fact that like they flash back and all those toys are like creatures that Donna saw throughout her tenure with the Doctor. I thought that was a cool little nod.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
her
I
little
liked
shed
it.
was like her TARDIS kind of thing.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I thought those were
Interesting.
cool little nods.
Yeah. I mean, they've established now we have kind of have like Dr. Donna, and then now Rose has now had that power toucher as well. So I mean, there's always the opportunity to kind of come back with that at some point in the future with these characters. Maybe Rose has more power than we realize, or something that will come out eventually. I don't know that there's been any kind of guaranteed announcement that she's going to continue on past these specials, but I know there's kind of some thought that she may be a recurring character, um, even beyond these three specials. So
Yeah, I mean, very, very little has come out about Gatwa's forthcoming episodes.
yeah,
They are staying fairly tight-lipped about some of them.
yeah. So in the end for this one, we do get Beep the Meep says, I'm going to tell my master, a character or somebody with two hearts is very rare, and that he's
Yeah.
gonna, basically go tell whoever his master is about the Doctor. So, do we think we're just directly connecting now to the what's the guy's name, the toy maker, or the
Toy maker, toy master. Yeah, toy
yeah?
maker.
Do you think that's his master, or is he talking about somebody else that we don't find out till later? Like, do you think how directly connected do you think that is to the next couple episodes?
Uh, I think it's directly connected. If this is like a setup for like for Gatwa's Doctor, and like this is something that starts to weave its way through, which would not be unheard of, right? Like we've seen some of these things weave their long way through, especially with Davies' writings. I would be overjoyed if this
Yeah.
is like a setup that's going to pay off months and months down the road. I think it is a direct connection though to the following two episodes.
What
I
does he
don't think we're going to
say?
get
Do
that
you have
long
the
of a
quote
payoff.
there? What
Let's
does he
see
say to the
here.
Doctor exactly?
Oh,
About two hearts, a creature with two hearts or something is rare. What's the
yeah.
exact quote?
Creature with two hearts is such a rare thing. Just wait till I tell the boss.
The boss. Okay. Because I was gonna say that would be way too convenient if he does. I kept saying the term master, and then I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, that would be too easy. So I was making sure that he doesn't say master there, because then it's like, oh, geez, they're just setting up the next master. But no, he just says the boss. But
Yeah.
it could mean the master. But I'm kind of with you. I would love it if that is a setup for something later and not just
Yeah.
directly a setup for the toy maker. Um, that would be way cooler if it was like, oh, we think it's the toy maker, but no, he's actually talking about someone else that we have yet. We're not going to meet
Yeah.
him for like a while. That would be more exciting.
Yeah. 100% agree. Like those are some of those moments throughout Doctor our history with Doctor Who that have been the best is you have like this slow burn setup for something, these small hints dropped here and there throughout episodes. And I feel like we're going to get some of those more and more. And it would be really cool if this was one of those. I
Yeah,
just don't think it is.
yeah, but maybe not. We didn't really get so yeah, the Doctor definitely needs to get some kind of like waterproofing done on his console, because my goodness, like a little bit of spilled coffee and that thing just went up in flames. Like that just does not track for something that's that high tech, that you would think that there would just be. I could see it like making something, oh, I spilled my coffee. I've done it. I spilled my coffee on my computer, then it stops working, but it caught on fire when I spilled my
That's
coffee on it.
And
So
the fact that there was the foreshadowing 20 seconds or 10 seconds earlier when Donna's like, that's how I lost my job. I spilled coffee on a computer.
yeah,
You knew it was coming.
even
You
the way
knew
she
that they were
spilled
just,
it, I don't know how many takes they did, but she literally throws the coffee out of the cup. It's not an
yep,
accidental or I dropped my cup. Like it was almost like a joke or something that she did, and they just kept the take. But
right,
yeah, she just
right.
was like, whoops, and throws her coffee off to the side, and then it just all craziness breaks loose. But they did say one last trip, they're going to go see Wolf. We do know that Bernard Cribbins
Yeah.
is gonna be in the specials, or at least we've seen him like in the set pieces and stuff. So, um, you know, they obviously the actor has passed on, so like anything that they have with him now will be kind of a nice tribute for him to kind of like his last appearances in Doctor Who. So hopefully they handle it well. But I expect to see him probably in the next episode.
Yeah, I agree. I do you think um do you think the TARDIS is actually going anywhere, or do you think this was just a I don't even
Like
know
they
what to
come
call
right
it, a
back
red
out.
herring? Yeah. Do you think it's
No, well
actually anything's
so
actually happening?
yeah, because they did give us a really short preview of the next episode, and they show the TARDIS like land on some. It looks like another one of those spaceship episodes where they're on a spaceship.
Okay.
But it does show the TARDIS kind of land into the interior of a spaceship, and they come out, and then almost feels like there's like a horror element to the next episode.
Okay.
They seem really scared, but they really didn't give us much at all. There's a couple like reaction shots from Donna and the Doctor, but really not a lot of info.
Gotcha. I don't know how I missed that.
Yeah,
That's
it was like
I
next time on. So I think if you,
Oh dang.
I'm pretty sure it just showed up at the very end of the Disney Plus episode. I think it's tagged on to the end. Unless you have
Okay.
to click, maybe you have to click more features. No, I think it's just at the very end of the episode.
Okay. I need
But
to track that down.
it's
I
also
did
on
not see
YouTube
that.
if you look it up.
Okay.
It's on there as well. But
Cool.
yeah, so two more of these, and then I guess you said, I think it was pre-recording, but you had mentioned that Shuti Gatwa's first episode is actually the Christmas special. So we're gonna get two more Doctor Who episodes with Tennant, and we're gonna get a Shuti Gatwa episode before the end of the year.
Yeah. So we had the 25th, then the special on the 2nd, and then another special on the 9th, and then we'll take a break, and then we will have the Christmas special like the next week. So we got
And then
like
they'll and then if I'm remembering correctly, there's a bit of a break again, and then it starts up in the spring. Like,
that is what I understand it to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll
So
have
the next four are the 25th, the 2nd, the 9th, and then the 25th. Yeah.
yeah. So a lot of Doctor Who coming up in the holiday season. So that'll be fun. And to have it back on Christmas will be cool because that's uh did they do Christmas last year?
No, it was a New Year's.
Was it New Year's again?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if they went back and did a Christmas one yet. Oh, that's right. We had talked about the whole we didn't have a Christmas special last year because of the way everything fell. So
Yeah.
it'll be nice to get one. But yeah, anything else we didn't cover?
Uh, the last thing that stuck out to me right before the TARDIS goes up in smoke was the dialogue, and as far as Donna saying, "Why does it have to be one last trip? Because you could visit my family. We could do outrageous things like have tea or dinner and a laugh." And Rose's school play. She's a terrible actress.
Hmm.
She can't act. I just thought that it feels very reminiscent of like what Amy tried to do with Smith's doctor, as far as like stick around, like be a part of the family, like hang out with us, that type of feeling. And I do feel like, I mean, now that you mentioned that there's a preview, it probably is the next episode, but I do feel like that's probably why Smith hangs out a little bit longer, is because Don is trying to get him to. But
Interesting.
that's all.
Yeah. Yeah. We always wonder because we know that the doctor, anytime you know that the doctor is going to regenerate, you kind of start to speculate on what happens, what causes
Yeah.
it. Does a companion pay a price? We had all these discussions even with Jodie Whittaker and how her doctor was ending and kind of, how dramatic is it going to be? Is it going to be a happy ending? Is he going to have to erase Donna's memory again?
Yeah.
Will a character die? So it will, we have two more episodes and then another regeneration. So it's kind of like we're fast forwarding through a whole doc. We've never had anything like this where we have such a quick, not that, I mean, I guess the War Doctor, but we kind of know, like the
Yeah.
War Doctor was a little different, but we've never really had a new doctor and then like two episodes later, another new doctor, so this is kind of
Right.
a new territory for us fans and being like, oh, we get to see Tennant go again. It was pretty hard to see him go the first time. It will it be as dramatic the second time, or maybe they do a whole different, kind of maybe he goes more willingly this time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if he goes this time, it would, I think if he were to say, this is the last time I will ever be the doctor, then it would be like, okay, it would probably be sad because up to this point, it's like, oh, he could come back. He always comes back.
mm,
But I don't think any statement like that has been made. I think Tennant always is like an open invitation. The dude is everywhere. He does everything. I don't think he says no to any job. And he's incredible with everything he does. I don't think he would ever say no to Doctor Who, but I could be wrong.
yeah, he seems to enjoy it, and now they've opened the door to the fact that the Doctor can
Yeah.
be an old face. So now it's kind of like, oh man, who else? Who's next? Like which Doctor are we getting? We know Shuti Gat was coming, and we'll probably get a couple of years with him at least.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we can't have, any number of the doctors that are still around come back and do an adventure. And we know they're willing to do just a 3 episode thing.
Yeah.
So it could just be a short. We've always said how cool it would be if Paul McGann came back and got a chance to play the Doctor again and for the eighth Doctor, and maybe he comes back, regenerates into that face and gets a season. Like there's so many opportunities now that they've opened up that makes it more exciting.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be wild if they were like, yeah, the next one is directly after this episode, the third episode, though. Oh, yeah, that's like 5 years in the future. And then we have all sorts of time to play with in between the second special and the third special. They're not going to do it. I can dream, though.
You're talking
I can
crazy now.
dream.
We
I'm
just get
talking crazy.
a crazy unexpected cameo from like Chris Eccleston or something, and you're just like, what? Like that would be
I'd
mind
lose it.
blowing.
There you go. There you go. But
All right.
cool. We're back. It's here. It's
Yep.
happening.
Yep. I mean, overall, I will say the episode wasn't great for me. I loved seeing Tennant back. I think that was my favorite part. The story, whatever, was fine. Yeah, but I'm not like, oh man, I can't wait to see Beep the Meep again. Like, he was fine as a one-off. I hope he's not a recurring villain. But I think just David Tennant and Donna, or those two actors together again, was worth it. No matter what story they gave us, they could.
Yep.
The rest was icing, but they were just seeing them two together were the highlights for me. And then I think the interior of the TARDIS was kind of the other thing. Like it was like the new TARDIS look and David Tennant back were kind of like the big highlights for me in this episode. Not anything to do with the story or some of the actors were fine, but yeah. Once again, David Tennant outshines all.
And I think that's fine. I really do. I think the fact that they included both Tennant and Tate in the same episode, the same first episode that we've had of Doctor Who in a while, big transition episode on Disney Plus. I honestly think they kind of expected it to be more of a Tennant and Tate show, and for those two to be the focus. Even with Rose making an appearance, Donna's husband making an appearance, Rose being like that third main character of the episode, she even was somewhat on the periphery a lot of times during the main action sequences.
Oh yeah.
She was off screen, she was doing her own thing, and she would come in, but Tennant and Tate were the main focus. So if the main thing that you enjoyed about this episode was Tennant and Tate, I think that's probably
That was what
what they expected.
That was the
I mean,
intention.
we mentioned it. Beep the Meep, not an overly complex story. The thing crashed and it was trying to take off again, and through trying to take off, it was going to destroy part of the planet. So not crazy in-depth story. I'm with you. I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it because Ken was back. Donna was who Donna is in full swing, and it just felt right. TARDIS was cool. I like that, but Ten was back. I'm stoked to see what they do in the next two episodes. it will be interesting to see if they flesh out more of a story, because if the only thing Doctor Who has going for it over the next two specials is Tennant and Tate, it will feel somewhat like a letdown. But for the very first episode, that's all I wanted. I just wanted to see my Doctor back.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's the soft introduction. They bring them in, they keep the first episode a little light, and then the more dramatic stuff comes. We know, the toy maker, that whole thing's coming. And so
Yeah.
does that, when does that manifest itself? Pretty big guest star coming, with that. So
Yep.
yeah, I think they're saving some of that stuff for the finale, the big
No,
finish.
I
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
All right, man. Well, good catching up with you, and thanks
Yep.
everyone for sticking with us through these off times. We're excited to be back and talking about Doctor Who for the next few weeks at least. And yeah, we'll keep putting episodes out. But until next time,
Whoa, and it's gone. I don't know who I am anymore. I'll go with that one. It's
fitting.
all a
Yeah.
bit mad. It's all a bit mad, Shirley.